Welcome to Dialogue. COVID-19 cases surge in Europe and the United States. There's also sporadic cases reported here in Chinese cities. Are we facing another round of viral transmission? And will vaccination put an end to this crisis? Today, I'm honored to be joined by Mr. Gao Fu. He is the Director for Disease Control and Prevention of China. I'm Zhou Yue. So, Mr. Gao, first of all, let's talk about China's cases. We have seen new COVID cases in different cities, including the nation's capital here. So how concerned should we be as Chinese?
I think in general we should be concerned because the pandemic is real. So we have a real pandemic. There's no place can be safe until every place is safe. Because the pandemic is still all over the world. How can you have China as the safe place? It's impossible. Because of interdependency, because of the globalization, yet we still have a lot of flights, fly around. We still have the land borders between China and so many neighboring countries. So there's no way you have a safe land here.
But people would say that China has been practicing probably the most severe restrictions on either border control, immigration control, or quarantine of inbound flight attendants. It seems all these are working, so we can keep the virus out if those measures continue.
Theoretically, but so far as you know, we had the most stringent measures in China. The first lockdown in Wuhan city, and then we have the four lines: Wuhan city and Hubei province outside of Wuhan city and the neighboring region. And we try to protect it, our capital, you and me, city here, Beijing, then all over China. We did a brilliant job to get the disease under control. We have the virus clean on April 8th, clean. And then, we have several imported cases. Those imported cases, imported virus, they cause the local transmission. I counted, we have already 7 in addition to the Wuhan. Before this current outbreak, sporadic outbreak at the moment.
So you say sporadic cases, and can you be sure that it's all imported virus, not domestic?
Not local, yeah.
Not local transmission.
That's a very good question. When we see in China, we have 8 waves before, including the Wuhan, the first wave. And the 2 factors tells you this is the waves. First, so after Wuhan, we are successfully to identify the patient 0. Who is the first patient? Where this patient, from? For example, we know those patients, the second wave after Wuhan in northeastern provinces, Jilin and Heilongjiang province.
The border with Russia.
The border with, exactly. Those patients, they are the patient 0, and they were from Russia. Of course, there's 1 patient from America. And you always trace back this is patient 0. That's the first factor, can tell you. So this is, starting from the scratch, 0. And the second, because of modern technology, we can do this sequencing of the genomes of the virus. So because the virus eventually spread all over the world, but when they adapted to the human beings, to the certain regions, they have some specific mutations. When you do the sequencing of the virus genome, you can clearly see the specific mutations. So that mutation can only be found in Europe or be found in America. Give you an example. Our second wave in the northeastern provinces in Heilongjiang, and most of the patients, they have the virus. The virus is imported from Russia, and a single imported case, a student coming back from America. So those American virus and the virus from Russia, they are distinct. You can clearly see they are different. So this is why we have the waves. Why we see we don't have local transmission. So all those viruses imported, because you can say all the new virus we have at the moment for the local transmission, they are so different, so distant from the virus we identified initially in Wuhan.
Are you saying that we are able to have every sample sequencing and profiled here in China, every patient?
You're right. In China, we have such a capacity. This is why, recently I was invited to write something, to say something in the journal called Lancet Public Health. So I'm saying in China, we have a very, very strong community level public health system. In Chinese, 强基层. So our community level control is very, very strong. This is actually the lack of any other countries, including the industrial
Because for many countries, it's probably impossible and unimaginable to trace patient zero. And now it seems most of the cases are not human-to-human transmission here in China, but rather what call environment-to-human transmissions. That is the imported food or seafood or meat. Is that going to be the only way that the Chinese should be concerned about? We can only contact those viruses through imported food or stuff.
When you think about what's going on at the moment, we have already a lot of sporadic cases in different provinces. So my worry, first question you asked me, whether or not it should be concerned. I said, yes, of course, it should be concerned. Currently, most of these sporadic cases, because I said you first asked me, do we have the capacity to sequence every single patient? I said, yes, we have. Because of that, only in China, we can identify the origin of the particular sporadic case. In this case, we identified, because in China, we cleared all different waves. We have waves cleared, and then you have imported cases. Those imported cases, some, of course, by flight, but most of the cases at the moment now is by the food package, the environment. So in this case, for the last several waves like that, but in the future, I don't know. You have to wait and see. For those specific COVID-19, it's very covered. It's a crazy virus. And from America, in February, I'm working for virology for decades, several decades. So I already realized, it's different. It doesn't make any sense in terms of the knowledge we know about the virus, even from the very beginning.
I want to pick up on the word that you use, crazy. Actually, it is kind of incomprehensible for this virus. For example, the latest development, the variant we see in the United Kingdom and in South Africa, it seems they have mutated, but in a dramatically different way than we expected. So do you worry about this mutation trend of the virus?
Yeah, I also would like to pick up your word, dramatic. This is exactly the dramatic mutation. So why it's dramatic, why it's special, why I say crazy? And, until September, in the UK, they detected the new mutations. And suddenly, until now, within 2 or 3 months, they overwhelmingly, dominate the whole epidemic virus in the UK. Of course, recently, you have a new variant in South Africa. Why we are so worried? Why, pick up your word, dramatic? Because the mutation we found is in a specific gene. That gene encodes specific protein. That protein is important for the virus entry into the cell. So with those mutations, will those mutations impact the virus entry into the cell? Would that mutation have some impact for the virus to change their copies, to infect some more cells? We don't know. So because that's the first important things we have to think about it. The second, this is a protein. This is a protein. That is a vaccine target. So we are working so hard. We are approached to have a very good vaccine, not one. Because this is the first time for the human being to vaccinate healthy. Remember, vaccine is used for the healthy population, healthy. So the first time to be used for human being. So this is from the very beginning. We have different lines of the strategies for the vaccine development. mRNA vaccine, inactivated vaccine, protein substitute vaccine. We need this, and also adenovirus vector vaccines, because we don't know which one will work. It's not a competition for the vaccine. It's not a competition for different countries. It's not a competition for the human beings. It's not a competition for the poor and the rich countries. It's the competition of mankind, the human, with the virus itself.
Okay, let's talk about the competition between virus and humans. Can we get to the worst scenario where the evolution of this virus will go into high transmissibility, way higher than the current level, and not any vaccine can work against it? Is that possible?
Let me put it this way, because the virus and the human beings, the relationship, like Disney's Tom and Jerry story. So look at what happened, and everybody think, because the transmissibility might be high, but the pathogenicity might be lower down. Because Tom and Jerry want to play with the Tom. If you put a human being as a Tom, and the virus is Jerry, Tom and Jerry play together.
So it's more transmissible but less lethal.
Exactly. So that's possible, in general, because the virus itself want to survive in the human population. The virus, they don't want to kill the human population because this is the host. We remember, without any host, the virus cannot survive in the environment.
And another concern is, will the vaccines continue to work with mutated virus? So far, it seems both companies are saying, Moderna and Pfizer say, it doesn't seem that this new variant will reduce the effectiveness of their vaccines. But will it be like that for a long time to come? Are you sure that this kind of a mutation will not affect the effectiveness of the vaccines?
I think at least at the moment, there is no evidence those mutations, with this particular, at least 2 mutants, they would change their characteristics for the vaccine protection. There's no evidence.
However, means the spikes.
Yes, spike protein. However, because I said this is the protein, spike protein, responsible for the virus entry into the cell, it's a target for the vaccine development. There is always a possibility. Now we already have 10 mutations in terms of amino acid in the spike protein. Would you believe this will be the only 10? And because the virus can have those 10 mutations for the amino acid, why cannot they have 20
or 125?
Exactly. So this is definitely, as I said, this is beyond our imagination, based on our knowledge for the understanding of the coronavirus. So I think everything is possible.
Then we have to rely on our luck then.
Well, if you want to say that, we are living in this world. Most of the time, we are dependent on our luck. Don't you agree with me?
Yeah, I kind of agree, because the emergence of this virus is actually, in essence, a bad luck, or a coincidence of different things coming together.
Well, you can say that, because if, for me, because I'm working at a virology for decades, so several decades, I think this is a typical, so the people would say, gray rhino, to me.
Event.
But to you, maybe you are not working this, you are a journalist. You might think, well, I never, get myself prepared. So this must be a black swan. Yeah, black swan. So to me, it's a
gray rhino.
Really gray rhino. So, it all depends how and which angle you are able to see this event or this virus or even the whole world.
About the different versions of vaccines, of course, you mentioned there are several approaches. For example, Pfizer has the mRNA vaccines. We have the inactivated and adeno vaccines. But some people say the American company's technology is the most advanced because they use genetic materials to inject it into humans. And their technologies can be chases, which can customize with different payloads, target new viruses. They can change their genetic materials instantly rather than like what we do with inactivated vaccines. We have to develop on our own proteins. That mean is more resilient for the American choices?
Well, I think, there are a lot of questions there, a lot of discussions. This is the question I was asked, recently. I think, as I said earlier, because it's the first time for the people, for the human beings to use the coronavirus vaccine, we don't know which one is the best. Even we don't know which one is better. Okay. You have to introduce it based on the technology you have. And for example, in general, in China, we have 5 vaccines already in the phase 3 clinical trials, and some of them already near the finish up. I know at least one of them. I think they have all the data ready. One of the inactivated vaccines. So that means I don't think which one is better or which one is the best. We have to line up. As I said, if America, based on their technology, with the mRNA vaccine, and China with the inactivated vaccine, also the protein subunit vaccine, that's from my own research group, and also the adenovirus-based, live virus vector. We have 3 for those, I said, 5 phase 3 clinical trials vaccines. We don't know which one is better. As for the so-called customized, eventually, if have any mutations, all those, including inactivated, mRNA, protein vaccine,
all of them can
adapt
to the new challenge.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. For example, do you remember every winter? We encourage everybody to have a
flu vaccine.
Exactly. The flu vaccine, have you ever heard every year you have a clinical trial for flu vaccine?
No.
Exactly. But we change the immunogen. We change the antigens, the virus. Most of them, they are inactivated vaccine produced by the embryonated eggs. But we also have some subunit vaccines. So with those, we never reintroduce our clinical trials. We can really pick up, learn from that. Of course, mRNA vaccine is a little bit quicker. Within 6 months, 6 to 8 months, they have a cassette. I use those cassette at the base, remove the old version, put a new one. Inactivated vaccine is the same. Remove this old virus, get a new virus. And then same procedure. You get a new inactivated vaccine. If you don't want to do this procedure for the clinical trials, within a month, 1 or 2 months, definitely less than 2 months, again, you have a new vaccine. Subunit vaccine is the same. You remove the gene out, get a new gene in, same thing. So I don't think there's anything. Eventually, I hope the world, we will come to a convergence. People will have the convergent conclusion to which one is better. Again, it's not a competition for the companies, not a competition for the countries, not a competition for the poor and the rich. It's a competition for the human being with the virus. Whichever is the best, okay, let's move, let's share. And then we'll come together to the best vaccine for everyone in the whole world, not just for US or China.
I agree with you. In the end, it is a race between a virus and human beings. But still, you have to admit there are competitions between different companies and even between different countries to have a better shot of more vaccines available in the market. Who will among the first to be benefited from this vaccine? For example, American already have 2 vaccines in rollout, but China has not got this first vaccines yet.
Vaccine, but it's for the urgent use. China, the US, and many other countries, we are in the same line, the first line of this. I said we already in the urgent use. I hope, I believe, within a day or 2, a couple of days, we will make an announcement.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a vaccine ready.
So we're still the front runners, the Americans and the Chinese.
Yeah, I think we are both. Also other countries, we are in a front runner.
The second question is distribution. Who should be using the vaccines first? In China, as we have been discussing, there are very few cases of vaccine infections here in China. So a lot of people are asking, why should we be vaccinated? This happened outside our border. Why should we be vaccinated?
because the pandemic is still here. I don't think no country, including China, can be safe because the virus is still there. The pandemic is still there. The cases are increasing in the whole world. So how can you be safe in China? So this is why we have to get the vaccine ready. More importantly, we have to try to put the life in a normal, in the normal state.
You mean we have open border?
Yeah, exactly. Open borders and communicate and normal education. Everything should be normal. When you say, I say, we will never have a normal
life without vaccine.
We have to have a normal, relatively normal. So this is why we still need a vaccine.
Of course, this has been an eventful year for China, for CDC under your leadership. The COVID cases developed from several hundred in early January of this year to 80 million around the world. So what do you think would happen over the past year as a CDC director?
So we already discussed this, whether or not we have this one as a green rhino or a black swan. So in my opinion, as a virologist, this is exactly something, it will happen. It happened, green rhino. So, early in the last day, last year, we noticed there's some pneumonia of unknown etiology, so-called PUE. So when we noticed that, the virus from the very beginning, of course, we didn't know what it is. By the modern technology, within 1 week, we got it sequencing. That means genetic code was revealed. We isolated the virus. We saw the virus. Look at the picture there. Yeah. That's the coronavirus. Within 1 week, we isolated the virus, put it into the electron microscopy. We saw the virus. So, and then we developed a diagnosis case. Even, within 1 week.
That's unimaginable 20, 30 years ago.
Of course, even for the
SARS epidemic.
During SARS, it takes about 100 days to reveal what it is because of technology, because alert of the whole system, China's system. When you're talking about China CDC, for such a public event, emergency event, it's not China CDC itself. Me and China CDC, we are the leading organization. We need the coordinated work from the university and from local CDC and from the National Institute, different professors, we need to work together. This is why, for 1 week, we have 4 or 5 different organizations get a convergent conclusion. So this is the virus, this is genetic code. So then immediately, I think on the 8th and the 9th, we put into the international organization to share with everybody, look at a recent paper from the Pfizer and BioNTech. They cite, they got the sequence from a China CDC's deposit in the GSHAD. GSHAD is an organization. It's called Global Initiative of Even All Influenza Virus Data.
Of course, nobody denied that China has obviously contained the virus thanks to a lot of efforts, including yours. But looking back, what could we have done to make things even better? What could be improved on?
I mean, we Chinese have a saying, let me do to Chinese, okay? It's like, 事后诸葛亮.
With the benefit of the hindsight.
You could be the cleverest man, after
yes,
right?
Not everybody can afford the benefit of the hindsight.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, if we knew from the very beginning we will have a pandemic, of course we could be better. So, in my opinion, we have already done the best. For example, can you really do something from the very beginning? You only have a few dozen or even a few cases. For example, from the very beginning, we only have less than 27 cases.
Yeah.
Can we say, okay, this will be a pandemic?
No.
Let's do this. And even from the very beginning, the professionals, they were working very hard to do the so-called record mode, try to suppress, any cases there. And more importantly, because we have so many asymptomatic infection is there. Only after almost 2 months, we realized the asymptomatic infection are serious problems. Before that, we thought like if you learn, as I said, learn from SARS, MERS, or any other flu, you always try to find out the systematic infection to find that people really might have some symptoms.
Yeah.
But in this case, you have so many.
So in general, you've gained much knowledge about this new virus and how we should prevent epidemic for the future.
I mean, for the future, of course. I mean, it's always a good idea for you from the very beginning to take it in higher alert. The exact what we already have done. We done for that. I think for the future, not alert from one single country with the whole world, because the virus has no border. There's no border for the virus, and the virus doesn't have any passport. They didn't make any application for the visa. They travel everywhere. Everybody knows that.
Okay.
But the problem is we need a coordinated work. Like I said, we already discussed the cooperation and the competition, but we need also the coordination.
So my final question is cooperation. Yes, China contained the virus, but the measures that China took were looked at with discontent and sometimes disbelief by some other countries, sometimes with admirations. How do you look at their attitudes and judgments?
I think I already discussed with that Chinese saying, you could be the cleverest man afterwards, 事后诸葛亮, right? So everybody, if someone has suspected something, they always make the judgment after something happened. If you are the one who's involved, you're the real world, you're the reality, I don't think, you can say anything, here, misplayed whatsoever. Of course, you might say, well, you might, someone have a delay to report something, maybe some, small region, some area. But for the professionals, from the very beginning, we pushed very hard. In general, you have to say the overall. Overall, I didn't see, any misplay whatsoever is there. Of course, it could be always better. You can always say that. Can we do something better? Okay, let me warn you. Give you alert. Look at the future. I do think once we have another COVID-19-like pandemic, maybe the situation could be very similar. The lesson we want to learn, but that's the lesson we might never learn from. So again, I'm calling the solidarity, and solidarity. Let's work together, especially the poor and the rich, the developing and the industry countries. Let's work together. More importantly, I'm calling for the US and China, the two giant countries. Let's work together.
Thank you so much. I'm really enlightened by what you said. It is a race between humans and a virus, not between ourselves. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks.